Okay, all right. So, Mr. Joseph, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that. Just to let you know that I will be, I'm recording this, as you know. The only person that's going to be watching this video is my professor. So I have to make a quick comment that if you mention to harm anybody or if you harm to yourself or to anybody else, then I'm going to have to report that. Other than that, we're good. How's that?
Mhm.
All right. So thank you once again for sitting down with me. So today, who did we want to talk about? Which student are we referring to? I know you told me earlier, actually last week, that you have a problem with a student in your algebra class. So which student was that one more time?
Fred,
All right, Fred. So can you tell me a little bit about Fred's behavior and what's going on?
he's fine when I'm in the room, but we have a female special ed teacher because he has an IEP,
Okay.
and he's very disrespectful to her, and he's very disrespectful to other female teachers.
So what I understand then is Fred is disrespectful to the special ed teacher, and that's is this a co-teaching
It's
classroom?
a co-teaching classroom.
Okay.
Oh, he lost the chair.
Co-teaching classroom. All right. So can you tell me like how in which ways he's disrespectful?
Well, when he asks me a question or talks to me, he's very respectful. He's no bad language. When he when I'm working with other students and he's working with the female teacher, he'll talk under his breath.
Hmm.
He'll make some comments once in a while.
Okay.
Just doesn't have the same respect level, and he has the same thing for other female teachers.
Okay. So not a lot of. So what we're talking about then is the student doesn't have a respect for specifically female teachers,
Correct.
but for male teachers such as yourself, he can be respectful.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. All right. So can you tell me what kinds of things he says? Like what does he say underneath his breath, or is he just flat out rude? Does he use foul language or?
Not too often foul language, but just rude. It's a different attitude toward female teachers and the female special ed teacher in the room.
Okay, how about other? I'm sure you have other female students in the class,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Is he rude to them, or is it just to the one special education teacher?
Uh, I would say he's okay with most of the students. He I noticed it mostly with just the other teacher and with, like I said, other female adults.
Oh, so you have seen this with other female
Female adults,
adults.
yes.
Okay. All right. So we said that he's rude. So Fred's behavior just disrespectful to the teacher in the classroom and to other female adults,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Okay. All right. So on a scale of 1 through 10, or 0 through 10, 0 being not at all bad, perfect student, and 10 being the worst student we could possibly imagine, what would you describe Fred's behavior as?
I would say between a 5 and a 6.
5 and a 6. Okay, all right. So what would be the biggest concern then on that scale of 1 through 0 through 10? You said 5 through 6. So that would just mostly be, you said, just being verbally disrespectful, correct?
Just yeah, verbally disrespectful. You can notice the body language. I just wish he would treat her and the other female teachers the same way he treats me.
Okay. And do you have a good okay. Do you have a good relationship with Fred?
Yes.
You do. Have you? So he what? So it's algebra. So Fred's a freshman then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So the behavior setting. This is only in your classroom, correct?
Correct.
All right. All right. And have you noticed this? Have you? I know you only have Fred one period, but you said that you'd have noticed this other behavior before, or do you know if this teacher has worked as with Fred in another classroom setting? Are you aware of that?
One other classroom setting.
One other classroom setting. Okay. Okay. So when we're talking about Fred's behavior, his behavior towards this female teacher, does anything happen before that? Is there anything that causes that behavior? I believe you said that.
I haven't noticed that. It's just one he's working with her.
Okay, only when he's working with her. Okay. So only when, all right. And then how about what happens after then, after the behavior? What are the consequences of his behavior?
Um, Usually when I walk over there, he'll, and he's the denial most of the time. Um, but if I catch him in the act of doing it, then usually I will try and I'll if I'm not working with another group, I'll pull them aside and we'll just say, hey, a few times I've kept them after class to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had them come in the morning once already to talk about it.
Okay. Have you called the
Um,
parents?
We've already made one call home.
Okay.
If it happens, parent is supposed to be coming in next week.
Okay. What do the parents say?
Parents not happy.
Parents, I could imagine. So what time? Okay, so
It's a morning class.
it's a morning class. Okay.
It's a morning class.
I was just going to ask, what time is it?
It's
Right.
a morning class.
And what? Okay, so what are we talking about? Like, in terms of consequences, we just said that a call home,
I've had a call home so far. He's already had a detention for it.
detention. Okay.
He's already been in a dean of students office.
At the dean.
So-
All right.
I've already talked to the case manager and the school social worker.
Okay.
I asked them to call his grade school and see if this was a habit last year.
Okay. So you have called. Okay.
I've already called there to see.
Have you had a response from them yet?
No.
No response. Okay. And the special education teacher, has she given you a copy of Fred's
Yes.
IEP? You do have a
Yes.
copy of Fred's IEP. Okay, so what we're talking about then is you have a student, Fred, who this is a morning class, who is disrespectful to the female teacher or the female special education teacher. Consequences so far is he's had a detention, that you've called home, and that the parent is supposed to be coming in next week, correct? Okay. All right, when this behavior occurs, how strong is the behavior? Is it severe, or is it not severe?
It has been anything from just a subtle look to, basically hearing him mumbling something under his breath loud enough for me to hear.
So a look to a subtle, to
Yeah.
saying something subtle.
Yeah, and just the way he talks to her is not acceptable. I mean, it's not any cuss words or swearing. But as I'm talking to you now, would be
Sure.
the way I'd expect someone to talk to you, not with an attitude
Of course, right.
that he has with.
But he does have an attitude
Yeah.
with it. Okay. And so we said, in terms of how frequent does it happen? Would you say throughout the class? Give me an example of frequency. How
It
often?
depends. There's some days where it doesn't, and there's some days where it's 3-4 times a day during a class.
Does and doesn't. Okay.
Yeah, it's not all the time, but it's enough that
To notice.
yes.
Okay. Let's back up a little bit. So on the days that it doesn't happen compared to the days that it does, do you notice anything about his behavior? Is there anybody in the classroom or anything in the classroom that could
No.
possibly set him off?
No,
So nothing that could possibly set him off.
there's no one around him that would set him off, or that have set him off. I've looked for that because I thought about switching him to different spots,
Okay.
but
Have you tried yet? That's fine. Have you tried possibly? You said that you've thought about moving his seat. Have you moved his seat yet?
I brought him up by me.
So he's by you.
But I'm not always up in the front of the room.
Right,
I'm up
because you're
there when
teaching.
I'm demonstrating stuff on the board. Well, if I have to move around the room, I can't always be up in front.
Right, right. And when you have your back turned, do you ever notice that he's making faces at somebody, or
No.
or no? Okay. Does he have a cell phone out? Is a cell phone at all? No cell phone either. Okay.
No, I don't want them out in the classroom. Pretty clear about that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, in terms of a goal, how would we look to change Fred's behavior? What would we want to do if we could set a goal? What could we possibly think of?
The goal is for him to treat both of us with the same respect.
Both teachers with the same respect.
Right.
Okay. And that would just be Fred looking at the teacher and you as equals,
Mhm.
correct? Okay. Okay. Is Fred? What are some of Fred's strengths? I'm sure he's good at things in your class. Do you notice anything what he's good at?
Very good at calculations.
Calculation.
Very good at um, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Fractions, he's weak. You don't want weaknesses.
Oh, that's fine.
And word problems are tough for him because of his low reading comprehension. But calculations and just general math problems, he's pretty good at.
So
Pretty
basic.
quick.
So basic
Yeah.
calculations. He's
Even
good.
mental math, he's good. He's even better with
Good.
the calculator, but mental math, surprisingly good.
So he's good at. You said addition, subtraction, basic fractions, but he's not good with word problems, right?
No.
Okay. I think we've all been there. All right. Good.
And anything abstract, he's really tough for him.
Okay.
I mean, if it's not just the numbers and it's anything else, then he has trouble.
All right. Now, okay, so when you're in the classroom, what are your procedures for teaching? What kind of approach do you have to teaching the classroom?
That's a combination of at the board lecturing, them doing problems either at the board or at their seats, and group work.
So
It's a combination.
lecturing.
Yeah, I try to limit how much time I'm lecturing.
Uh-huh.
Get them more time to work, but there's times I have to.
Sure. So combination of lecture, group work,
We start every day with a review.
a review. Is what kind of like a bell ringer or
Just a review the day before.
review a day before? How overall, what is Fred getting in the class? Off the top of your, I know you don't have your grade book in front of you right now, but if you could,
I would say he's a
hypothesize.
solid C student.
a solid C student. Does he hand in his work?
He usually has as much as he can do.
Okay.
Like I said, if it has any word problems, he has a real tough time with that.
Okay. Does when the other teacher in the classroom, does she tend to now work because of the problem with the other teacher? Does she work with him one-on-one, or does she tend to not work with him as much?
If he needs help and I'm not there, she'll go and work with him.
She'll work with him.
Yeah, that hasn't been a problem.
Okay. All right. Now, what? Okay. I know that he has an IEP, that he's a special needs student. Does he get any kind of extra credit for being good? Have you thought about that, or is that in his IEP? And
It's not in his IEP, no.
not in. Okay.
And I hadn't really thought about it right now because it's just something I expect.
Sure, of course, right.
It's not a bad idea, but
Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to quickly summarize that we're talking about Fred and
Okay.
Fred's behavior towards the co-teacher, the special education teacher in the classroom. Fred is a C student. He's okay with basic calculations, but word problems he needs help with.
there wasn't anything in the IEP about problems with females. So I don't
Okay.
know if this is something new or
Right, right. It would be interesting though to ask the parents. I would think
I'm going to
when
talk
they
to
come.
the parents. It'd be interesting if the grade school would get back to us.
Sure. You said earlier on that there will be a meeting. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Next week.
Next week. What day will that meeting take place?
I'm hoping Monday.
Next week, Monday. Okay. All right, so why don't we go ahead and let's make a plan. Let's see what we can do to collect data, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Would you mind collecting data just
Sure.
on Fred's behavior? Do we want to look at the frequency of how often he makes a subtle remark to this teacher? Would you be willing to?
I'll keep track of the frequency and the severity, if that'll work for you.
That would be terrific.
I will keep track of both.
So when he comes in, what are we going to look at in terms of in frequency? What behavior will we be looking at specifically?
Just to, if I notice any difference, how do I want to word this? If we notice him behaving in a way that would be unacceptable, you know, something he wouldn't say to me or a way he wouldn't act toward me.
Sure. Unacceptable behavior. Could we
Yes.
say that's like calling out behavior?
Yeah, I don't mind if they call out to ask in class if I'm not talking, because people need help, and I don't mind if they say, hey, you know.
Sure, but calling out behavior means a distracting behavior,
Okay,
behavior.
good.
So would you be willing to, starting today is Thursday,
I'll start tomorrow.
start tomorrow?
I'll start tomorrow
Okay.
tracking it for you.
All right.
I know the special ed teachers have tracking sheets, so I'll get.
They do have tracking sheets,
I'll
right?
get one of their tracking sheets.
All right,
and-
thank you. All right, that's terrific. And what we could do is every time he calls out, you'll just make a mark. And what was the other? You said frequency and severity.
Severity.
Okay.
You know, I'll try to jot down what he did.
All right, and so let's do that for a week, and then what we'll do is we'll meet back next Thursday, 1 week, and we'll figure out and see how it goes.
Sounds good.
Okay, so like we said, we're worried about Fred. We're going to look at Fred's behavior. We're going to keep track of the times he calls out or that he's disrespectful. Are we just going to do it to the times he's disrespectful to the teacher, or other times in the classroom? Although you said earlier previously.
There really hasn't been any
Okay.
other. If I notice that, I'll, make a side note, but I really haven't noticed it.
Okay, this is great then. Terrific. So frequency of behavior towards teacher. Okay, all right. Well, Mr. Joseph, I know how busy you are with coaching and all those other things. I really appreciate you meeting with me, and I know you said next Thursday we'll get back together. I hope you don't mind me recording you one more time.
No.
And we will look at Fred's frequency of the times in the classroom of how he's being disrespectful to the teacher. So I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me just turn this off here.